We are back live here on NFL Today, about a week before the NFL Combine gets going. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's show. We'll begin with the upcoming pinned poll on today's video. Will the Bengals pay Tee Higgins? Not just franchise tag him, but get a long-term deal done as well. Just added the pinned poll. Go vote in it for me right now. And in the comment section too. Y for yes, N for no. I won't give away my thoughts. We will get to that as parts of the rumors roundup on today's video. It might come down to what you want in the end. I see Delusional Patriots fan says no. You might want Tee Higgins in there. Bengals fans probably say yes because they want Tee Higgins. So get those votes in the comment section and in the pinned poll. It's Y for yes, N for no. Skylar Lee's got yes. Also appreciate Chualor and Ray Foreman already having hashtag NFL questions in there. That'll make producer Chris's job a lot easier in 30-ish minutes, give or take, somewhere in that range. Probably a little bit less than that, actually. Christian's got one, too. Chualor says yes. Rafe says no, they will not. That'll be I think a minimum is going to get tagged. So I don't think he's going to be a free agent. I think that the vibes are a bit better at a Cincinnati that they'll actually be able to get Tee Higgins done. Not just T, but Chase and Hendrickson, because frankly, they're not paying that many guys anyway. They're really not. They've got plenty of cap space if they want to make moves happen. And paying all three of those guys doesn't really change their year one cap space anyway because they're all at the end of their contracts. So, Y for yes, N for no. Delusional Pages fan says T, come be Mario instead of Luigi. It's fun. I like that one. Tommy says yes. Christian says yes. Shelly says no as well. All right, we will spend some time on the latest Daniel Jeremiah NFL mock draft as well. So, two-part question. Can be a bit complicated. I want you to shout out your favorite team and keeping it realistic, what team you want them to draft, or who you want them to draft. Excuse me. Favorite team and what player you want them to take. So, you can't be Cowboys fans saying Abdul Carter. It's just not going to happen. Let's be barring. It wouldn't even be a gas mask video. That'd be like, drive-by incident for Abdul Carter. And at that point, he's not going to get drafted, period. So it's just not going to happen. So shout out for a team you want them to draft. Browns and Howard from time in the Buckeye. Patriots, Abdul Carter from Shelley Dahlman. And Delusional Patriots fan. I think there's zero scenario in which Carter gets past number 4. I think that might be the scenario is QBs at 1, 2, 3 combination. Hunter goes 3, and then they switch to put him to take Carter at 4. Saints and Genty at 9. Panthers and Will Johnson. Texans, Emeka Ibuka or Tate Ratledge. I think Ratledge will go. Maybe he'll go Tate. You can get both those guys. I think that's possible for you. Cowboys, Ashton Genty. Vikings, Walter Nolan. I am not nearly as high on Walter Nolan as some are, but 24, I'm not going to complain very much. I think that actually fits probably about the better range for him in the end. I think it might be a good scheme fit, too. Steelers, Genty or Luther Burden. Niners, Walter Nolan. Again, I'm not as high on Walter Nolan. That's me. This is very much a ice cream flavor draft in the sense that, there's some, just good flavors no matter what, like chocolate chip cookie dough. I assume everyone likes chocolate chip cookie dough because I'm not going to say vanilla because that's, boring, but, I think everyone likes that one. There's some obvious flavors like Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, etc. And then it's kind of like, okay, take your pick. I'm a big peanut butter chip guy. I just love straight peanut butter. Not everyone likes peanut butter, though. There's also some that I just don't like other people's do. Pistachio ice cream. I'm not a fan. I don't get it. People like it. It's very much you're going to have your own flavors of what you like and don't like in this class. And that gets really true, after pick 6 or 5. It gets, real thin in terms of, the top-end talent goes from, hey, got a couple top 5 guys to, okay, there's not very many pure top 10 grades this year. Niners, Mason Graham. Niners, trade Debo to the Jets, get Will Campbell. I think you have to move your first as part of that deal. I don't think Debo alone is going to get you a 1. Mike Green or Mikael Williams to the Saints. Commanders, trade picks for Myles Garrett. Now you're talking. Rafe, Derek Alexander because he wants to be a Texan. We'll talk about Alexander today. That is a not household name that's very fun. Vikings, Kenneth Grant, 24. I like that one. Bears trade down to 18, get a second in Walter Nolan. Okay. Buffalo trade a 1 for Garrett or Max Crosby and a 56 draft Deion Walker. Walker is very much ice cream flavored. He's really fun because he moves in a very rare fashion for someone of his size. He's also got like very real concerns that like I think I could fix him. I will risk it all on day 2 for Deon Walker. All right, we'll talk franchise tag. I'm going to stop with the draft talk. Otherwise, I think I get a lot of those in the mailbag. I don't want to blow it all right now. How many teams use the franchise tag this year? I think more so than other years. It's going to be light. There is a chance when it's all said and done, there are 0 players at least playing on the franchise tag this year, which I don't know the last time that happened. I'm sure it has at some point recently, but top of my head, I don't know what it is there. So how many teams end up using the franchise tag this year? 3 kind of stand out right now. Bengals, Chiefs, and Vikings. And I don't know if all 3 will end up needing to. I think 3 max, Ray Foreman is correct. And we'll include the transition tag here if that impacts your numbers there. So get those votes in. How many teams use the tag this year? Chua Lore says 4. 3. No one's used the tag yet. The window actually opens in 3 minutes. So no one's used it officially yet. And in most cases, teams don't deploy it instantly. It's available until early March. They'll use all of their window to do that. Otherwise, because if they put the tag on early, that's normally a sign of we're not getting a deal done. Hey, make us a trade offer. I remember the year the Dolphins hit Jarvis Landry on the tag like immediately. And then traded him pretty quickly to the Cleveland Browns there. So get your predictions in how many teams use that franchise tag this year. Now, if you want us to start today's show, like the video. Goal was always a 50% like ratio. We were well past actually about at the 25% mark. So it's not bad. Almost to 30, just not quite there in the end. Help us out. Like the video. Free, simple, easy. Please and thank you. Coming up on today's live edition of NFL, we'll break down news, rumors, franchise tag, trades, everything else in between here on the show. A mailbag. Get your questions in right now via hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. And we will break down the latest Daniel Jeremiah mock draft. Some, as always with DJ, anything in a positive way, different picks than what you see from others. All coming up live here on NFL Daily. The NFL franchise tag window has opened, but it might not be a very active year for the tag, especially compared to some previous seasons. There's a chance that 0 players end up playing on the tag this year. So predictions. How many teams actually end up using the franchise tag this upcoming season? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. There are a couple notable standout potential tag applications here. The first is Tee Higgins. We'll spend some time on him. That one will be used. No guarantee he'll play on it, though. We'll break that down in a second. Trey Smith, the Chiefs' offensive guard, and the Vikings facing some decisions which, to an extent, have actually already played their way out. Let's begin with the Bengals and Tee Higgins. Now, they are set to use the franchise tag, first broken by James Rapine, then reported by NFL Network and ESPN, if they can't get a long-term deal worked out. And this isn't really a surprise. The Bengals, with their unfortunate inability to draft properly the past couple years, don't have a lot of guys worth paying right now. There's no reason for the Bengals to let Tee Higgins hit the open market. The 1-year franchise tag cost of $26-ish million is less than he'll get probably average per year if he hits the open market. In fact, the vibes in general seem to indicate it's a little bit more likely the Bengals will get a long-term deal done with Tee Higgins. Of note, Joe Burrow has advocated incredibly heavily for paying the Bengals' best players. Tee Higgins, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, even Mike Gesicki getting kind of thrown in there in that conversation. Higgins was repped by David Mulgeta. Mulgeta has never had an extension done with a Bengals player on a second contract. Has never happened. Jesse Bates got tagged and left to the Falcons. Higgins changed agents. He's now gone to Jamar Chase's agent with the assumption that they can all work together and figure out a way to make it work with Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. And the general vibes around Cincinnati this year are a bit more optimistic. They'll be able to get a long-term deal done because there's not a lot of other guys needed to pay, and they have plenty of money to do so. So will the Bengals end up paying Tee Higgins? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know at the pinned comment of today's video. The ad comes here on YouTube. Just fine. Ignore it. Take advantage of it instead. Head down there and go vote. Will the Bengals pay Tee Higgins long term? Y for yes, N for no. Let's talk Trey Smith. This one is a little bit trickier for a Chiefs team that, frankly, doesn't spend the way you think a perennial Super Bowl contender would, far less than the Eagles do, for example. The Chiefs have the option to franchise tag Trey Smith if they want to, but it might be too expensive. Now, the highest paid offensive guard right now in football makes about $21 million per year. Smith is worth getting paid that, if not a little bit more. That's fine. The franchise tag, though, because the NFL kind of does it stupidly, is not just guards or centers. It is all offensive linemen, which really means it's tackles. You're paying him tackle money on the franchise tag, $25 million. The transition tag, which would give the Chiefs the right to match any offer but get no compensation if he leaves, would be $22.75 million. That is a little bit more palatable, but given the recent draft pick investments on the offensive line by KC, I could very much see a scenario where they go, we're going to keep Joe Thuney, we're going to try out, C.J. Hansen and Hunter Norzad, and maybe even try Wanye Morris at guard and draft somebody else, and stick with our highly paid guys at tackle and pray to God that Kingston Sumataya gets better. I think if Trey Smith hits the open market, it will be a bidding war. There is a long list of NFL teams that would be like, yeah, we'd love to get a top 5 guard in the NFL, wherever you want to rank him. Those guys don't normally hit the open market, especially ones as productive as Trey Smith is. If he hits the open market, Trey Smith will get a significant amount of money and probably a record-setting contract in the end. Then there's the Vikings' decisions. Now, Sam Darnold is the obvious franchise tag candidate, but up until about an hour ago, Byron Murphy was getting some buzz. We'll break down what I mean by the about an hour ago. But I want to begin with Sam Darnold. This is what Kevin Seifert over at ESPN, the Vikings beat writer, wrote. It says, using the tag on Darnold will be an expensive way of ensuring his return while avoiding a longer-term commitment that would hinder J.J. McCarthy's eventual ascension. It could also be able to elicit additional value by way of a trade, but that would require knowledge that multiple teams would be willing to bid. In the end, the Vikings seem more likely to let Darnold sign elsewhere and preserve their tag for a player like corner Byron Murphy, etc. on Byron Murphy. If nothing else, it would give the Vikings time to sign Murphy to a longer-term deal while keeping him off the market. We will go more in depth here on Byron Murphy in just a second. But first, I want to talk about Darnold. And I again, would not be surprised if Darnold ends up hitting the open market. The Vikings are big fans of J.J. McCarthy. I don't know if they want to pay Darnold $41.33 million. That's the projected franchise tag cost from over the cap. That's expensive for 1 year, kind of limits their spending, limits what they're able to do. The plan was for really 1 year of Darnold, and he played so well, he's probably going to price himself out of the market. To the extent that maybe he even gets the $40 million in the open market from a more desperate team. So I would not be shocked if the Vikings let Darnold walk and took that precious third-round comp pick. Now, as for Byron Murphy, this one has changed in between when we were building the show and when we went live for it. The Vikings and Byron Murphy have agreed to push back the void date on his contract. Instead of voiding kind of in between the normal off-season time frames and in between that normal franchise tag window, it now voids after the franchise tag deadline, which means they can no longer tag Byron Murphy as part of this. He is not taggable. Now, they delay the void date in large point, I think, because I never really thought they were going to tag Byron Murphy at $20.4 million. That's a lot of money. I do think, though, an extension for Byron Murphy makes even more sense because you look at what Minnesota has right now under contract at cornerback, and it's a little bit dicey. Stephon Gilmore, Murphy, Shaq Griffin, Fabian Moreau are all free agents. It's like Josh Metellus is really a safety and Mekhi Blackman. undrafted free agents. That's not a great grouping. So for Darnold, that's him that getting the tag or nobody getting the tag in Minnesota. Will they tag him? Why? Or 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I want to also check in with latest on Myles Garrett. The Athletic reports the Browns still want to keep Garrett. They want to give him a monster extension, and they don't want to let him leave via a trade. There is a very clear lack of alignment between what the player wants and what the organization wants. That's not new. That's what happens and how you get trade demands. In the end, there is only so much that Myles Garrett can truly do at the moment. There's not a ton of leverage in his camp beyond the public requests and kind of making a PR mess for the Browns. He's under contract for 2 more seasons. It's a long time. That's team leverage in the end. And at least gives the Browns leverage to get an even bigger trade package out of it in the end. Maybe it's all posturing. I do wonder if the Browns think that they can fix this. If they believe that they are able to rectify this, have a quick fix, and win now. The problem is, I think Myles Garrett has made it clear he wants to win, has looked at this quarterback market and gone, yeah, what's your quick fix? Kirk Cousins? You're hoping a rookie is instantly great? Possible, but dangerous, especially in this class. I don't know if that quick fix exists. And if they're not going to have the quick fix, and Myles is adamant, you trade away Myles Garrett, you're blowing it up. And you're probably, the issue is, signing pink slips for some key members of your front office and organization, and that's nothing that benefits them. So that's how you get this dichotomy of player wants out, team does not want it, and it's kind of a staring contest. And we'll see who blinks first. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks, the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit, whether it is from a basketball perspective, got some hockey action going on with 4 nations and, of course, more hockey to come, or baseball. Season-long PrizePicks are available. I always do the flex play. Kind of cover me a little bit. I'm really good at the flex play, not so much on the all-or-nothing ones. It's available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Let's talk quarterbacks. Justin Fields and the Jets. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reporting Fields and the Jets could have mutual interest in each other. Here's what Fowler reported on ESPN. They could have some interest. They like the idea of a dual threat QB. He's younger. I'm told Fitz looked at that roster and sees some intrigue there too. They have some good young pieces like Garrett Wilson and a good defense. To be blunt, Justin Fields wants to start. That we should all know. So, of course, there's some interest in Justin Fields' side of it. He wants to play. Jets have no quarterback. Of course there's interest there. He'll have interest in any quarterback-needy team. And because of how quarterback-needy some teams are, there will be some semblance of interest, at least in Justin Fields. Now, we'll get to some issues here that he might run into in a second, but prediction time. Where do you think Justin Fields will sign in 2025? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, Fowler claims Fields is going to be a pretty hot name and is open to return with the Steelers. He had a good experience there. The belief is Pittsburgh is open to that too, but Fields wants a clear runway to start a full season. He didn't get that last year. He would like to be the guy wherever he goes. I get why Fields wants that. That's understandable. I also get why there might not be a long list of NFL teams falling over themselves to make that happen. Justin Fields is no doubt a minimum top 62 QB, i.e. one of the top 2 QBs in the NFL, right? But he hasn't put a consensus top-end quarterback. The bright side here for Justin Fields is, he's still only 25 years old. There are draft picks in this upcoming class who are as old as Justin Fields is. Not even kidding, by the way. But the he hasn't emerged as the guy that I thought he was going to be coming out of Ohio State. Hand up, I thought he'd be better by now, and that hasn't really happened. Is he just going to end up being kind of a stopgap level quarterback, or can he get a chance and showcase more? And is Pittsburgh the spot he does that, or is it New York or somewhere else? Oh, we got a mailbag coming up for you on today's show. 2 ways to get in on the action. Number 1 is to super chat. Skip the line altogether. Those super chats today, that's okay, but it will guarantee you get in on the show. I did see several hashtag NFL questions come in earlier. We've got room for more, though, for producer Chris to find and bring up on screen. So if you haven't already, get those questions in via hashtag NFL. Skip the line altogether via super chat. Let me charge my phone. It doesn't live the way it used to because I probably need a new one at some point. But get your questions in. Hashtag NFL. Skip that line altogether via a super chat. I saw several of those come in. Sip some water, too. Can be questions, comments, thoughts, anything else in between, so to speak. Just anything NFL that we'll be happy to answer those questions and have some fun chatting about a variety of NFL topics. All coming up here on the mailbag. Before we get into today's live NFL mailbag, if you want us to be live for NFL free agency, do us a favor. Like the video so we can show the bosses it is a key priority for us. First up from Chulor, what trade packages can the Niners get from trading Deebo Samuel? It's a good question. His contract isn't great, and I don't think the Niners want to eat a bunch of that money. That's why, much like Cooper Kupp, I wouldn't be shocked if a release happened. I think there is the possibility of that. So I would not be surprised if it ends up being just a day 3 pick. You know, a team like Pittsburgh comes in and says, we'll give you our 4, some conditional pick or another late round pick tacked onto it. I don't think because of the decline in play, the age, the fact that he's kind of built like me a little bit right now, which I don't mean in a positive sense, and the contract means the value is a lot lower than what it would normally be. Ray Foreman, no way the Texans trade for DK Metcalf, right? I honestly wouldn't say no way. I would be a bit surprised in large part because I think DK Metcalf wants an extension. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I don't think he wants to play under just the 1 year remaining. Now, Stephon Diggs was okay with that, and maybe it didn't work out the best for Stephon Diggs, frankly, coming off the injury. But I would think that DK wants an extension, and with what the Texans have coming / committed already, I don't think they want to spend, top-end money on Nico Collins and potentially top-end money on DK Metcalf. Not like top of the market, but still pretty high up there. So, impossible? No. Likely? Probably also no. Adam Dent, do we know if the NFL salary cap will go up again this year? It is not official. It is not set in stone, but the consistent expectation is yes, the salary cap is going to go up. And that'll probably go up to somewhere in the ballpark of $273-ish million. Could be a little bit plus or minus. The exact number has not yet been announced by the NFL. We'll know it before free agency. All this, like the team sites you use for cap numbers, whether it's Spotrac, Over the Cap, etc., they all factor in that rough projected rise. Could be a bit higher, could be maybe a little bit lower, probably not by a lot, but it will go up, and it will continue to go up pretty much every single year by 15 to 20 million, if not more. Stevie Drake, how about Matthew Stafford to the Giants? I would not be surprised as we get into the combine and out of the combine if we hear more about a Matthew Stafford trade. I get the vibe the Rams don't want to commit big money long-term to him. He's older and got injury issues, which is fine. A team like the Giants, for example, is a prime destination to be like, we're going to try to win now, save our jobs. We won't burn the first-round pick on a QB. We'll get something else in there. We'll have a veteran option, try to save our jobs, draft someone on day 3. I think it makes a lot of sense, unless the Rams say, no, we're just going to pay him. I think Stafford would rather be in L.A., but I think he wants some more long-term security too. So predictions. Will the Rams trade Matthew Stafford? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. From Vincent, running back, free agent options for the Pittsburgh Steelers. honestly, it is it is not a great group of free agents. It's kind of a mediocre option of like Najee Harris is probably one of the top 5 guys, and I think he's very just like good-ish. Do you want to break the bank for a J.K. Dobbins coming off the injury? Probably not. Aaron Jones is still a good one. Rico Dowdle, I know Jalen Warren is a restricted free agent, so he'll be back probably. I think maybe you draft somebody for Pittsburgh. I think Cam Scatterboo and Jalen Warren, that could work. Skylar Lee, I'm hoping Carolina signs Nakobe Dean and Isaiah Simmons in NFL free agency. Isaiah Simmons has been kind of a pretty big disappointment for me. I really thought he was going to be a special NFL player, and turns out the accusations of him being a jack of all trades and master of none ended up being true. I will say Nakobe Dean is under contract this upcoming year, so he's not a free agent. Maybe you mean Zach Bond, the other Eagles linebacker. But I do think getting more linebacker help is a priority for Carolina. Is Villa, what are the best moves for the Falcons? Pat defense help. Fine. Beg someone to take Kirk Cousins' contract and not pay all of it out. You don't want to cut him because you just need so much money, but you would love to find a trade partner, save some money, but there's no real leverage for Atlanta because everyone knows they're done with Kirk, and it's just kind of a mess. I think upgrading that defense, getting some pass rush help, the thing you could have used a lot this past year. That's, I think, number one priority is upgrade that pass rush, keep working on the defense, and then develop Michael Penix. You do that, everything feels a lot better about last offseason. Jeremy Williams, does Devontae just follow Aaron Rodgers again? Maybe. Can't rule it out. I think it depends on where Rodgers goes. I don't know if Adams wants to go somewhere and kind of hypothetically, does he want to go follow Aaron Rodgers to the only team that wanted Rodgers, and it's he signs a cheap 1-year deal with the Titans or something? Is that what Devontae Adams wants? I don't think so. I think he'd be more inclined to go back out to the West Coast. I think Chargers make sense. I think the Niners, if they move on from Debo and still want to throw some assets at wide receiver, could be a sneaky option as well. I don't think he's going to just follow Rodgers. Depends on, in the end, I think where Rodgers go, and that would be a real candidate in the end. So where does Devontae Adams play in 2025? Let me know in the comments section of today's video. From Harry, what is your ideal and realistic player to draft at 12 for the Cowboys? The ideal for me is someone like Tet McMillan or Ashton Genty, even if you are okay taking a running back that early. I get not everyone is. Fall to 12, you take a top 10 guy on I think my board and probably their board, and you are very happy with it. Realistically, I kind of like a trade down idea, but if you get kind of picked over, the trade down makes more sense. Otherwise, I'm okay reaching for a guy that I am higher on, whether that's a Luther Burden or one of the offensive linemen like Armand Membu. A lot of it depends on how that board plays out, but maybe you get lucky and someone really good falls to you. From Mad Rummer, I think the Saints will get at number 9. It's a good question. I think a lot depends on what happens this offseason with the Saints. Do they embrace what I think they should embrace, which is it's time to rebuild? Hire the young coach, the first-time head coach, give him time, kind of get your books in order for the first time in a long time and not have to be so constantly aggressively restructuring deals, take some bad money, eat some dead cap, whatever, and focus on the future and take probably maybe a more aggressive developmental guy like a Mikael Williams if you want an edge, or a Mike Green if you want one of those, or if you want to take Tet McMillan or Genty or whatever. I think you just trade down would be great too. I think there will be a good player for the Saints. They've spent a lot of assets, I know, in recent years on that offensive line, on that defensive line. With this class, I'd probably invest in it again. And I frankly look at edge almost more than anything, or corner. I think Will Johnson makes a ton of sense for them. You trade Marshawn Lattimore. You have some young pieces. Let's get another number 1 guy there. Today's show, got a deal for you guys. It's Fanatics jerseys, NFL jerseys, rookies included. If you go to chatsports.com/NFL jersey, you will see all of the NFL jerseys currently available. Spoiler alert, it will be a lot of Eagles jerseys because it's sorted by the most popular sellers and biggest rises in sales because They won a Super Bowl. So you might have to filter by your team, but that's fine. Chatsports.com/NFL jersey. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Ray Foreman, what contracts could the Texans restructure and create a decent amount of cap space? Let me pull it up here real quick for you guys. Texans restructure notable contract options are Laramie Tunsil, $10 million. This is just simple restructures, by the way. Daniil Hunter, 13. Titus Howard, 10. Nico Collins, 8. Shaq Mason, 6, who could also be a cut candidate, frankly. Azeez Al-Shaair, 6. Dalton Schultz, just under 5. Danico Autry, under 5. Just straight cuts right now. Shaq only saves 2. Danico saves 5. I think those are the main ones they'd consider. But that's a lot of, like, free up $10 million there, $10 million there, 8, 5, 5, 5. That adds up. And given the lack of overall contract investment, long term, I think you'll see Texans do just that. They'll have some money, but not as much as some other teams will have. Hey, Super Chat from Poppy Chulo sits. Is the back end of the draft as bad as advertised? So it depends what you mean by back end. Round 1, overall day 3, I'll break down both. In general, this round 1 class, there's a couple of studs that I like. And then someone who's taking the top 5, you feel better about taking top 10. And a lot of guys in the top 10, you feel better about top 15. And a lot of guys top 15, you feel more like they're back end of round 1 guys. And then like 15-ish, you're going to have a bunch of second round grades. The guy you take at like 20 is going to have very different opinions and very similar grades to a lot of guys that are going to go in the 40s. So there's not a ton of elite, true round 1 talent. There's some good depth in kind of that second roundish round grades. And then when you get to day 3, it gets thin again. And a big factor in that is NIL and the COVID years. You're still feeling that impact where, hey, this guy was going to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. He can get more going back to college for one more season. Or, hey, this guy's spent 4 years already, but he's got the COVID year too. Or the COVID year and the redshirt year and the injury year, which is a thing. I mean, Tyler Shuck is going to be like the top 7 quarterback drafted at minimum this year. He's 25 years old and spent 7 years in college. The man's a doctor. I know that is true, but he's spent long enough to be a doctor. That never would have happened in previous eras, but the NIL COVID era has changed things. And I think it's kind of led to less true talent in the back end. Not as many guys going pro early. Don't miss out on any of our NFL coverage here at Chat Sports. Hit that sub button for free videos each and every single day right here on the channel. Christian, what if the Steelers trade for Matthew Stafford, then get Cooper Kupp in free agency? I'll take it a step further. Who's to say they wouldn't just trade for both at the same time? Now, that's me getting kind of, borderline galaxy braining it, but getting both guys actually does make some sense. And I think Cooper Kupp fits well with George Pickens. Pickens is the outside guy. Kupp can do the dirty work underneath, over the middle stuff. I think that's actually a pretty good plan and kind of like commits Pittsburgh to what I think they should be doing, which is trying to go for it right now. They've got some older defensive pieces. There's still a lot of uncertainty at quarterback. I would not try to, have a 5-year plan. I'd have like a 2 or 3 year plan. A $5 super chat from Ruthless Monk. I think Houston will trade their first round for Trey Smith. I don't think anyone's trading for Trey Smith at that level of draft pick cost. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to tag him. The best case tag and trade is probably like a 3rd round pick for him because that's the normal comp pick impact anyway. Maybe it's even a little bit less since it's this year and not a year from now. Smith is awesome, but he's about to hit the open market. Teams will dare KC to tag him and try to trade him then. They're not going to move a 1st round pick for him. Henry, how do you think the Chicago Bears draft? You mean drafted or draft? I'm going to go draft this year because that's more entertaining. I think offensive line is going to be a key focal point. They take one in round 1, or they take one in round 2. They've got some flexibility there, kind of across the board. I'm curious what players Ben Johnson wants to get. Do they look for another running back to pair or replace DeAndre Swift, since they kind of did that once already? I think defensively, front 4 talent is the main focal point too. Plus, maybe a corner or 2. Ralph Carson, will the Ravens trade Mark Andrews? I would not be surprised. I think the new team would owe what the Ravens saved. That's about $11 million in the end. I don't know if a team wants to pay Mark Andrews at his age coming off that, but I do think the clock is ticking on Andrews' future, whether it's this year or a year from now or 2 years from now, of Andrews in Baltimore. So name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. From Jim, could Rodgers go to the Titans? Remember reading that he bought a house in Tennessee? He might be a bridge QB for 1 year, and Titans get a QB next year. Your thoughts? It makes sense. I know he bought land. I'm not sure if he built the house yet or not in Tennessee, but I think that's going to be like his retirement home type of deal, which is weird to say about like a 40-something-year-old, but he's a pro football player, so it's fine. I think the logic makes sense if you see Tennessee willing to do that. There's a lot of fair or not baggage that comes along with Rodgers in the end. All right, Matthew Gillum, what are your best fits for Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia? Now, I'll be honest, I think he's an edge. I think that is how you deploy him best. If you want to do some like spy games with him at linebacker, that's fine too. If you want to do some early down stuff, kind of like Frankie Luvo style, I think that also makes sense. So like the Commanders fit that role. I think a team like Carolina could actually be a pretty good fit for him and kind of let him be I think the best way to maximize Jalen Walker is kind of try to build your defense around him and try to go in knowing, okay, how do we maximize Jalen Walker? Same with the Cowboys, kind of with Micah Parsons. Not saying the same player, but I think that's kind of the vibe there. I think a place like Carolina, where it's Derek Brown and J.C. Horn, but front seven-wise, there's not a lot of like long-term pieces. I think that fits really well. And in a 3-4 base outside linebacker, I think Carolina really stands out as a good fit for me. How many teams do you think end up using the franchise tag this year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. I'll sip some water here. Let me get that going. There we go. Had to hydrate, How many teams end up using the franchise tag this year? Get those predictions in for me in the comments section of today's video. I don't know if it's going to be very many in the end. I think the chance ends up being a pretty low figure, quite frankly. Christian says won the Bengals. There's a chance the Bengals use the tag and then get a deal done before free agency starts. I wouldn't put that past Cincinnati this upcoming offseason. So get those predictions in right now. How many teams use the franchise tag? Before we break down the second version of Daniel Jeremiah's latest NFL mock draft, we will have more NFL draft coverage for you right here on the channel. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Let's get to pick number 1. It is Abdul Carter, the Titans pass rusher. No change here on the Daniel Jeremiah 2.0 mock draft edition. Continue to stick with Abdul Carter as the top pick off the board. And then there is a change at number 2. Quarterback goes. The Cleveland Browns take Cam Ward out of Miami, Florida. The Browns have a chance if you like Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I think you jump all over that guy and you take him early and you figure out the rest later. If you don't believe in him, try to trade down. So with Cam Ward off the board, Giants go Travis Hunter, still having big uncertainty at quarterback. I will make notes. Daniel Jeremiah has been a big proponent of the Matthew Stafford trade to the Giants, which, hey, Travis Hunter and Malik Neighbors on offense, oh boy, that's fun. All right, the Patriots at number 4, also no change here or on the next three picks, actually, we'll get to in a second here. Will Campbell goes number 4 to the Patriots as they help an offense line that needs help in a pretty big way. I do love this pick. This is one I'll probably do a lot. I think and I'll just steal the line from Daniel Jeremiah because he's spot on here. Perfect marriage between need, talent, and fit. Mason Graham to the Jags. It just makes so much sense. The Raiders get Shedeur Sanders, and I agree with DJ here too. I like his fit in the Chip Kelly offense. I think Chip Kelly has made the comment for you. He wants an extra. He wants a point guard, someone to distribute the ball around. Doesn't have to be the freakiest athlete ever. He wants someone to execute the offense as it is run. I think that is Shedeur Sanders' game. It's very accurate, doesn't have the same physical skill set. I think that actually works pretty well with the Raiders and Chip Kelly. A unusual but fun two-part ask for you on today's show. Who is your favorite team, and who do you want them to draft? Put it in the same comment at the pinned comment of today's show. The ad comes here on YouTube. Take advantage of the ad plane. Think about it if you need to. And let me know who your team is and who you want them to take in this year's NFL Draft. Another non-change, Tyler Warren to the Jets at number 7 overall. I think that this helps them upgrade their offense. Garrett Wilson and Tyler Warren as a 1-2 punch is really entertaining to me. Jalen Walker goes number 8 here, the edge rusher. I think DJ's got him at edge. I agree. I think he's an edge, not a linebacker. In their base 3-4 scheme, I think that fits really well and will allow them to have a potentially high-end impact piece on defense, which they're pretty light on right now. Mike Green goes number 9 to the Saints here. Green was awesome this year for Marshall, man. And looked great at the Senior Bowl, too. I think getting pass rush help for the Saints certainly makes some sense. And it's a class that's heavy on top, or front 4 talent. We'll have a lot of guys go early. Chicago takes Kelvin Banks out of Texas. I like Banks a lot. I will say, I think he is a tackle. I think some of his issues in terms of just power and run blocking sustain, I think only get amplified by going guard to him at guard. I would keep him at tackle and let him have some success where he's pretty fleet of foot. Will Johnson, number 11. I am a fan of his game, too. I know DJ wasn't as sold on him previously. It's actually kind of a pretty big rise for Johnson this mock draft. Last time he had Will Johnson going 15. He had Banks going 13. Both guys get a bump up this time around. This is the first pick that I go, I don't like it. It's Walter Nolan. In general, this year's draft class is very much a pick your flavor of ice cream. Not everyone is going to have the same consensus big boards as we've sometimes seen in years past. At pick 12, oftentimes this is no doubt the number 2 defensive tackle. This year, this is DJ's number 2 guy taken. The number 2 guy and the number 6 guy, going to be a lot of disagreements there. My issue with Walter Nolan is this. I see the athletic upside. I see the traits. I see the flashes. I see what he can be. There are games that he had 13 pressures in 2 games, which is insanely productive, and he had 6 games with 0 or 1 pressure. He's too athletic and too talented to have that level of inconsistency. I get he's only 21 years old, but I worry about that a lot. He's too hot and cold for me. I think 12 would be just too rich. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Available in over 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. It is the best place to get real money sports action. They invented the flex play, which means you'll have still cash out even if it's not perfect. You can get one of the season-long baseball props wrong. You can get one of the season-long or rest of season and basketball ones as well. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you use code CLNS after you play your first $5 lineup. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly right now. Number 13, a guy that DJ's a big fan of, Tyler Booker, I think gives them a real powerful run blocker at guard, which they don't really have. I am a little surprised to see Armand Membu off the board here at number 14. Not because I don't like the player, but because I'd be a little surprised if Indy invested so much in what would probably be a right guard, unless they want to cut Braden Smith to replace Will Fries. That's kind of what DJ implies. I like Membu a lot. He's actually going to be a probably around this overall rank for me. I've got a first-round grade on him. I'm a big fan of his game. I don't know if Indy can afford to ignore the defense, though, right now. Number 15, Mykel Williams. Take a pass rusher, Atlanta. Come on, let's do it. Trayvon Walker vibes here. Depends on what the medical situation looks like. He wasn't the same guy after the injury this year. And the traits are there, but the production's not. Kenneth Grant is a freaky defensive lineman. Not a great pass rusher yet, but he has immense athletic ability. Post-combine, I think he blows it up like I think he will. He'll test great. I think he'll be pretty highly drafted, or pretty highly in these mock drafts. Number 17, Jahdae Barron. I like him. And DJ and I are on the same page. We are both, I think, higher than consensus on Barron. We both have first-round grades on him. I believe it's a first-round grade. DJ just does ranks, but it was in the range of a first-rounder there. Corner is not the biggest need for Cincinnati, but it is a need. And I think Barron is like a nickel, like Brian Branch-type player, can be highly impactful. Here's a surprise. Gray Zabel, the North Dakota State interior offensive lineman, I think is going to be interior lineman despite playing tackle at North Dakota State. It would be a departure in the way Seattle normally drafts players, because normally they don't value guards with premium picks. Go back to that Cowboys pick at 12 with Walter Nolan. I'd have taken Ted McMillan at 12 and let him fall all the way to 19. I'd be surprised if he fell that far. I think there are too many teams that need a receiver. As long as he's not crazy slow at the combine, which he's probably like a 4.5-ish guy, I think he's going to go top 15, if not top 12. I do love the Colston Loveland Broncos pick. It makes so much sense. Denver is looking for that joker role on offense. Loveland fills that to a T. Ashton Genty. I didn't mean to rhyme. I'm sorry. That was not intentional. I'm a little surprised he fell to 21. But if Dallas doesn't take him at 12, there is room for a bit of a surprise slide or trade up for Genty. Pittsburgh at 21 is an upgrade over Najee Harris. The Chargers take a running back as well, Amarian Hampton out of North Carolina, who I actually have as RB2 over Caleb Johnson narrowly as well. But this is I think, a good fit with what the Chargers want to do on offense. Now, Josh Simmons, if he was healthy, we'd be talking about him he could be the first tackle taken in this year's class, which was number 4 in this mock draft. Patella tendon injury is a real red flag there. Medicals will determine how early he goes. Another surprise, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State to Minnesota. I'm a big fan of his game. He is a top 5 back for me, no doubts. I think he needs to be deployed in a bit of a committee, in a rotation, where he can utilize his explosive ability and not be wore down, 30 carry a game back, whatever. That doesn't happen very much, but still. I think it'd be a fun fit in the Vikings offense. 24 is early for him, or at least a surprise early. There's going to be at least one, and potentially more, backs taken in round 1 of the 2025 NFL Draft. How many get taken? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Number 25, Emeka Egbuka, I think is a good fit for what Houston likes. This is just the upgrade button over the current version of Robert Woods. And CJ Stroud gets to play with his old college teammate. It's weird to say out loud, but that's what it is. Here's another surprise. Darius Alexander. Now, I'll say this. I like him. I was very impressed by him because I like MAC football because I'm a sicko and went to Miami, Ohio. Had a great Senior Bowl. He's older, though. Going to be 25. It wasn't as dominant as I wanted. I think he's more of a day 2 pick. And I don't think the Rams, who have drafted Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk with premium picks, need to also spend a first-rounder on Alexander. Shamar Stewart off the board at 27. He could go top 15, and I would not be surprised. He is a physically gifted player who has yet to put it all together. Actually could be a good fit in Baltimore. Donovan Jackson to the Lions, who was left guard, left tackle. I'm down to try him at right guard as well. I do wonder if the Lions would invest another premium pick on the offensive line, or if they try to go a little bit cheaper there. Number 29, Jihad Campbell. It's kind of funny. I do think he fits pretty well with what Dan Quinn likes to have at times in his linebacking core. I get some Frankie Luvo vibes here, which I mean in a positive sense, and hopefully he's not just my concern of he's just stretched out Devin White. But I think he can blitz and he can cover and he can run stop. He is my number one pure off-ball linebacker in this class. Matthew Golden off the board here at number 30 to the Buffalo Bills. I think he fits pretty well. Might be some overlap with Keon Coleman, but Coleman and Golden on the outside and Shakir in the slot. That works for me. 31, Josh Connerly. I don't know what the long-term plan is for Kingsley Suamataia. I think you're kind of drafting another version of the developmental left tackle in round 1, but Chiefs had some stuff exposed against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are at 32, and they take Malachi Starks as they get an impact safety. Maybe Reed Blankenship and C.J. Gardner-Johnson aren't there forever. Starks 32 is great value, although it is not how Philadelphia normally spends their premium picks. So be honest with me. Grade that Daniel Jeremiah NFL mock draft, then I'll break down some notable players left off of that board. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Some other top prospects who I was surprised did not go in round 1. I feel like you're just not as high on Luther Burden, and that's fine. I love him. I think he is a yak generator, and I mean that in a positive sense. He was 25 in DJ's last mock draft. I don't really know why he fell this time. Guys that were 30 and 31 in his last mock, Derek Harmon, James Pierce, I think they should be in that late round 1 conversation, but I get that, it's flavor of ice cream. It's not everyone's favorite this year. Nick Scorton, who was not in DJ's last mock draft, and then Nick Amonwar, who was actually 20 in DJ's original mock, out of round 1 this time around, which maybe DJ got some feedback from teams on that one. So before we go, will the Bengals end up paying Tee Higgins? Y for yes, N for no. You can sound off for me in the comment section of today's show. 52% voting yes. Man, we almost got to 50-50 split. Doesn't happen very often. That makes it fun. Get those votes in. Y for yes, N for no. And make sure you don't miss out on any of the upcoming NFL news and rumors here on the channel. Hit that sub button. More draft coverage, free agency, everything else in between. YouTube.com/chatsports.